Have you ever stopped to consider the possibility that someone in your life is manipulating you, pulling the strings from behind the scenes, without you even realizing it? It's a disturbing thought, isn't it? The idea that someone could be exerting control over your thoughts, feelings, and actions, all while making you believe it's your own free will at play. It's a phenomenon that's more common than you might think, and it's often perpetrated by individuals with narcissistic personality disorder. In fact, research suggests that approximately 6% of the general population in the United States meets the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder, which translates to around 1 in every 16 people. That's a staggering number, and it's likely that you've encountered at least one narcissist in your life, perhaps without even realizing it. The truth is, narcissists are masters of manipulation, and they often use subtle, insidious tactics to control those around them. According to a study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, led by Dr. Jennifer Brunell, a psychologist at the University of Arizona, narcissists are skilled at using emotional manipulation to get what they want from others. The study found that narcissists are more likely to use guilt, anger, and self-pity to control their partners, and that these tactics can be incredibly effective in the short term. But what's even more alarming is that these tactics can also be incredibly damaging in the long term, leading to feelings of anxiety, depression, and even post-traumatic stress disorder. In fact, a study conducted by Dr. Craig Malkin, a psychologist at Harvard University, found that people who are in relationships with narcissists often experience a significant decline in their mental health and well-being over time. This is because narcissists are expert gaslighters, and they use a range of tactics to make their victims question their own perceptions, memories, and sanity. For example, they might deny previous agreements or conversations, or tell their victims that they're overreacting or being too sensitive. They might even use projection, blaming their victims for their own negative behaviors or feelings. As Dr. Malkin's study suggests, being in a relationship with a narcissist can be incredibly damaging, and it's often difficult for victims to recognize the manipulation that's occurring. This is because narcissists are skilled at presenting themselves in a positive light, often using charm, charisma, and grandiosity to win people over. They might be incredibly attentive and affectionate in the early stages of a relationship, making their victims feel seen, heard, and loved. But as time goes on, their true nature begins to reveal itself, and they start to use more and more manipulative tactics to control their victims. According to a study published in the journal Personality and Individual Differences, led by Dr. Dan McAdams, a psychologist at Northwestern University, narcissists are more likely to engage in exploitative and manipulative behavior when they're in a position of power or authority. This can be particularly problematic in romantic relationships, where the narcissist may use their partner's love and devotion to exploit and manipulate them. It's worth noting that narcissists often use a range of tactics to control their victims, including emotional blackmail, gaslighting, and projection. They might also use more subtle tactics, such as love bombing, where they shower their victims with excessive attention and affection in the early stages of a relationship, only to withdraw it later on. This can be incredibly confusing and disorienting for victims, who may feel like they're walking on eggshells around their partner, never knowing what will trigger their anger or displeasure. As Dr. Brunell's study suggests, narcissists are skilled at using emotional manipulation to get what they want from others, and they often use guilt, anger, and self-pity to control their partners. This can be particularly damaging for victims, who may start to doubt their own perceptions and sanity as a result of the narcissist's manipulative tactics. The impact of narcissistic manipulation can be incredibly far-reaching, and it's not just limited to romantic relationships. Narcissists can also manipulate their friends, family members, and colleagues, using their charm and charisma to get what they want from others. According to Dr. McAdams' study, narcissists are more likely to engage in exploitative and manipulative behavior when they're in a position of power or authority, which can be particularly problematic in the workplace or other professional settings. This is because narcissists often use their intelligence, charm, and charisma to rise to positions of power, where they can then use their manipulative tactics to exploit and manipulate others. As a result, it's essential to be aware of the signs of narcissistic manipulation and to take steps to protect yourself from these individuals. One of the most important things to recognize is that narcissists often use a range of tactics to control their victims, and these tactics can be incredibly subtle. They might use emotional blackmail, gaslighting, or projection to manipulate their victims, or they might use more subtle tactics, such as love bombing or guilt tripping. They might also use their intelligence, charm, and charisma to present themselves in a positive light, making it difficult for victims to recognize the manipulation that's occurring. As Dr. Malkin's study suggests, being in a relationship with a narcissist can be incredibly damaging, and it's often difficult for victims to recognize the manipulation that's occurring. This is because narcissists are expert gaslighters, and they use a range of tactics to make their victims question their own perceptions, memories, and sanity. Narcissists are also skilled at making their victims feel responsible for their own negative emotions and behaviors. They might claim that their victim is being too sensitive or overreacting, or they might blame their victim for their own anger or aggression. This can be incredibly damaging for victims, who may start to doubt their own perceptions and sanity as a result of the narcissist's manipulative tactics. According to a study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, led by Dr. Joshua Miller, a psychologist at the University of Georgia, narcissists are more likely to engage in aggressive and exploitative behavior when they are in a position of power or authority. This is because narcissists often use their intelligence, charm, and charisma to rise to positions of power, where they can then use their manipulative tactics to exploit and manipulate others. It's essential to recognize the signs of narcissistic manipulation and to take steps to protect yourself from these individuals. This can be incredibly challenging, especially if you're already in a relationship with a narcissist. But by being aware of the tactics that narcissists use to control and manipulate others, you can start to take back control of your life and your relationships. You can start to recognize the signs of narcissistic manipulation, and you can take steps to protect yourself from these individuals. As Dr. Brunel's study suggests, narcissists are skilled at using emotional manipulation to get what they want from others, and they often use guilt, anger, and self-pity to control their partners. By being aware of these tactics, you can start to break free from the narcissist's control, and you can start to rebuild your life and your relationships. The process of breaking free from a narcissist's control can be incredibly difficult, and it often requires a lot of courage and determination. It's not just a matter of recognizing the signs of narcissistic manipulation, but also of taking steps to protect yourself from these individuals. This can involve setting boundaries, seeking support from friends and family, and seeking professional help from a therapist or counselor. As Dr. Malkin's study suggests, being in a relationship with a narcissist can be incredibly damaging, and it's often difficult for victims to recognize the manipulation that's occurring. But by being aware of the tactics that narcissists use to control and manipulate others, you can start to take back control of your life and your relationships. As we've seen, narcissists are skilled at using a range of tactics to control and manipulate others, and these tactics can be incredibly subtle. They might use emotional blackmail, gaslighting, or projection to manipulate their victims, or they might use more subtle tactics, such as love bombing or guilt tripping. They might also use their intelligence, charm, and charisma to present themselves in a positive light, making it difficult for victims to recognize the manipulation that's occurring. But by being aware of these tactics, and by taking steps to protect yourself from these individuals, you can start to break free from the narcissist's control, and you can start to rebuild your life and your relationships. And that's exactly what we'll be exploring in the second half of this video, as we delve deeper into the signs of narcissistic manipulation and the ways in which you can protect yourself from these individuals, and start to take back control of your life. But first, let's take a closer look at the ways in which narcissists use emotional manipulation to control their victims, and how you can recognize these tactics and start to break free from their control. So, we've talked about the manipulative tactics that narcissists use to control people, but let's dive deeper into the psychological dynamics at play. When a narcissist is trying to exert control over you, they often start by making you feel special, like you're the only person who truly understands them. This is called the love bombing phase, where they shower you with attention and affection to gain your trust. But once they've got you hooked, they start to manipulate you into doing their bidding. Research has shown that narcissists use a technique called emotional contagion to influence people's emotions and behaviors. This is where they mirror your emotions, making you feel like they're on the same wavelength as you, and then use that emotional connection to manipulate you into doing what they want. A study by psychologist Dr. Jean Twenge found that people who are more empathetic and sensitive to others' emotions are more susceptible to narcissistic manipulation. This is because they're more likely to pick up on the narcissist's emotional cues and respond in a way that the narcissist can exploit. For example, let's say you're in a relationship with a narcissist and they're feeling anxious about something. They might start to express their anxiety to you. And because you're an empathetic person, you start to feel anxious too. The narcissist then uses that anxiety to guilt trip you into doing something they want, like giving them money or doing a favor for them. It's a subtle form of manipulation, but it can be incredibly effective. Another study by researcher Dr. Craig Malkin found that narcissists use a technique called gaslighting to control people's perceptions of reality. This is where they deny or distort reality to make you question your own sanity or memory. For instance, they might tell you that you're overreacting or being too sensitive, even when you're not. This can be incredibly damaging, as it makes you doubt your own judgment and intuition. So, how can you protect yourself from narcissistic manipulation? First, it's essential to develop a strong sense of self-awareness. This means being aware of your own emotions, values, and boundaries, and being able to communicate them clearly to others. When you're self-aware, you're less likely to get caught up in the narcissist's emotional contagion and more likely to recognize when they're trying to manipulate you. Second, it's crucial to set clear boundaries with the narcissist. This means being direct and assertive about what you're willing and not willing to do, and being willing to walk away if the narcissist tries to push you beyond those boundaries. Remember, narcissists thrive on power and control, so when you set boundaries, you're taking away their power. Third, it's essential to surround yourself with positive, supportive people who can help you stay grounded and focused. When you're in a relationship with a narcissist, it's easy to get isolated and cut off from others. But this is exactly what the narcissist wants. By staying connected with friends and family, you can get a more balanced perspective on the situation and avoid getting sucked into the narcissist's toxic dynamic. Finally, it's vital to prioritize self-care and self-compassion. When you're dealing with a narcissist, it's easy to get caught up in their drama and lose sight of your own needs and feelings. But by taking care of yourself and practicing self-compassion, you can stay centered and focused, even in the face of narcissistic manipulation. For instance, let's say you're in a situation where a narcissist is trying to guilt trip you into doing something you don't want to do. Instead of giving in, you could take a step back, take a few deep breaths, and remind yourself of your own values and boundaries. You could say to yourself, I'm not going to let this person manipulate me into doing something that doesn't feel right for me. By prioritizing your own needs and feelings, you can break free from the narcissist's control and start to reclaim your power. In real-life situations, recognizing narcissistic manipulation can be challenging, but it's essential to trust your instincts and listen to your inner voice. If you find yourself constantly feeling drained, anxious, or uncertain around someone, it may be a sign that you're dealing with a narcissist. By being aware of these signs and taking steps to protect yourself, you can avoid getting caught up in their toxic games and start to build healthier, more balanced relationships. Remember, dealing with a narcissist can be incredibly challenging, but it's not impossible. By developing self-awareness, setting clear boundaries, surrounding yourself with positive people, and prioritizing self-care, you can break free from their control and start to live a more authentic, empowered life. If this helped you see yourself differently, subscribe. I post new psychology insights every single day. And if you want to go even deeper, check the link in the description for the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. It changed how millions of people think and act.